Glad to see you make it through to part 2. In this section, titled Solar and Spartan, we'll dive into more of the intricacies of the solar industry as a particular sales enterprise, and then how Spartan works as an organization in that industry. To start, I'll introduce the 3 main categories of sales. The first is business to business, or B2B. This is when a large-scale organization, like say Walmart, purchases a product from another organization like Coca-Cola. They may order thousands of pallets in order to stock their shelves for resale. The second is B2C, or business to consumer. This would be when a consumer goes into the Walmart, say, Miss Karen, and purchases a 12-pack to take home. And finally, consumer to consumer, or C2C. This is the least common type of sale, but it could be like Karen going to her son's soccer game and selling Coca-Cola to all of the other parents. When talking about a solar company, 9 times out of 10, what's being addressed is something known as a residential solar organization, someone that sells as a business to consumers directly at their homes. This sort of solar enterprise here at Spartan is B2C, business, our business, to consumer. While commercial solar, business to business, exists, it's not something that we'll be covering during this new hire orientation. The value statement at its core for residential solar is pretty straightforward. Acquire a system that you own that produces the electricity that you need on your property instead of paying someone like an intermediary, the utility company, a rental payment for that electricity. The problem with that value, though, traditionally, is that it costs quite a bit of money up front or was difficult to qualify for. A lot of times, solar and other technologies were relegated to the 1%ers. However, because of some recent legislative changes, that's no longer the case, as solar is completely accessible to pretty much anyone with a property. In this section, we'll cover 3 major legislative changes that happened across the globe over the last decade. They've had a major bearing on our solar industry. While I recommend you do your own research on all of these, I'll give us a cursory glimpse today. The first is one that happened internationally in our United Nations meeting in Paris in 2015. It's the Paris Climate Accord. In this agreement, we all decided to treat global warming and climate change as if it were real, and we are going to do our best to slow or reverse the effects that we've had on the planet already. To do this, we need to cut back on our greenhouse gas and otherwise non-renewable forms of emissions, incentivizing things like electric vehicles and renewable green energy. In keeping with this is the brainchild of everyone's favorite politician, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Her decisions were almost memed out of existence here, as she was the poster child for a bill that didn't quite get the public reception it expected. It's the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal. Everyone said AOC was nuts, that the left had gone out off the deep end, that nobody knew what the heck that they were doing. This is going to be the end of America. In reality, all that it said was, we're going to tax gas in order to pay people to go electric for their vehicles. Again, it's in keeping with this idea that we should incorporate renewable forms of electricity. We should try to not use non-renewable forms of energy, like gasoline for cars. And so we're going to tax anybody who doesn't do it, and we're going to credit everybody who does. The Green New Deal gets pumped up on steroids in 2022, when the Biden administration releases the third and final piece we'll cover in this little legislative puzzle together. The Inflation Reduction Act. I put air quotes because it's got very little to do with inflation. In fact, it probably made the problem more difficult, but we'll not talk about that now. The provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act are pretty straightforward. It's in keeping with the Green New Deal idea that we're going to tax gasoline in order to incentivize people to take advantage of electric vehicles, but they also increase the price of electricity across the nation in order to incentivize people to take renewable forms of energy for their property. Things like windmills up north, and out here, solar. Given these changes, the value statement for residential solar sounds a bit like this today. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, I'm here to tell you about a program that you're currently missing out on. Right now, you have a choice, which is to pay more for electricity or less. That's completely free to do, and you can save money today. And that's really it. There's no catch or anything. There's no cost whatsoever out of pocket associated with doing it. It is a free choice to make. It's cheaper day one. You own the system instead of rent it, so you're building equity in your asset just like you would owning a property. They look really cool. They're great in inclement weather conditions. That sort of value statement leads us to our job. Here at Spartan, we're just popularizing that mission statement. We're getting this value statement out into the public so that they can understand it properly. Most people think, even today, I even have personal friends, think that solar costs something or it's difficult to access. It's for everybody who has a property, and it's completely free to do if you're working with a company that's worth its salt, say. Spartan doesn't charge a cent up front, and we have a lot of options for people to take advantage of. That being said, let's take a look at how solar works from an organizational perspective. There are 3 key players in the game of solar, each that play a specific role in getting someone to take advantage of the technology. The first and most important in this whole agreement is the installer. The install partner is someone who handles all of the delivery and shipping and maintenance of the panels themselves and of course puts them on the home when it comes time to go solar. But they're not asking for any money out of the pockets of homeowners that they do the service for. So the second component is the financer. This is someone, a capital group or a bank, that puts capital aside in order to allow people to take advantage with no cost out of pocket of an installer who does a good solar job. They'll pay all of the costs associated with it in one fell swoop, and instead of paying an electric bill now, you'll just pay for that cost. That means it's cheaper day one and you don't have to spend a cent out of your pocket to do it. Those two, in a vacuum, could do the sale and service of a solar operation completely on their own. However, because this technology has become so mainstream and there's a lot of fuel in the fires to get people to go solar, they have the bandwidth to incorporate a third player in this agreement, and that's the sales engine. The sales engine's sole role is just to generate leads that they pass on to installers and financiers to convert to served homes. That's what we do at Spartan. Our role is to go out and generate interest in the form of leads that we then turn into deals we ship over to our installers and finance partners. Something we'll dive into more detail later. But essentially, our goal is to go out and get people interested in taking advantage of this stuff. Typically, in the solar industry, a sales organization is tied to one install partner and one finance partner exclusively. This can run the risk, however, of one of these two bottoming out and then you can't offer the service. Spartan is set apart in that it doesn't fall into that category. We have a whole catalog of install partners to choose from in every market, and another catalog of finance partners to pair up with those installers. That allows us an incredible amount of flexibility in serving a wide variety of homes across the United States, and it also allows us to be effectively immune to the ups and the downs of the market, both installer and financer. Because if one of them goes out, we'll replace them with just as good an option. There is no wrong way at the end of the day to generate interest. You can do it however you'd like, something we'll talk quite a bit about in the next section when we go over the day-to-day operations of a regular Spartan employee. But it's important to remember that that's our role, to get people interested in looking into converting their homes from the grid-based electricity they use to power it to a system of their own on the property. That about concludes our overview of how the solar industry works in particular and Spartan's role in that paradigm. As a recap, we covered that there are many legislative changes at play in incentivizing people to take advantage of this sort of technology. The first is the Paris Climate Accord, an international agreement. We're going to take climate change seriously. The implementable steps forward in that decision were the Green New Deal and the Inflation Reduction Act, taxes on dirty forms of energy to incentivize clean ones. That today leaves our value statement in residential solar as something like this: completely free to do, with no cost out of pocket whatsoever, providing cheaper electricity permanently so that you're saving money today, and the government will pay you thousands of dollars in the form of a check in our tax credit. We will talk about that in later episodes. That being said, there are 3 major key players, components, in the solar game. There's the installer who does the work on the home, the financer who provides all the capital day one, and the sales engine, Spartan, who generates all of that interest. They all work together in one seamless solar package. In closing, a quick homework assignment. Take the information in this video and the video itself and go show somebody in your family or friend group who would benefit from putting solar on their home. Then get them in touch with us so we can help them do it. I'll see you in the next section.